New Hampshire is part of what they call the Swanton sector. I don't want to get too wonky for your crowd, but it's
the
basically Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont into eastern New York.
Great.
We were the only state up there that really put our own dollars, because we couldn't get federal help from the National Department of Homeland Security. They refused to give us what they call a delegation agreement, which basically says, hey, we're going to empower your team to do what we can't do. And they had taken our Border Patrol agents from the northern border and sent them to the southern border because the crisis was so big there, which exacerbated the problem. Now, I created a law enforcement initiative, put a couple $1 million up there, which basically coordinated all of our law enforcement on our side with the Canadians on their side. Very successful. The surrounding states didn't do it. So it wasn't, we didn't see, once we did that, we didn't see almost any crossings.
Because they were going to Vermont and Maine.
Quickly, the word got out in Quebec, do not go to New Hampshire. They take this stuff seriously. They would go to Vermont, New York, and especially Buffalo. They come to what they call the Buffalo sector because they're all trying to get to New York. Now, is the issue of fentanyl real? Absolutely it is. I mean, we were at the tip of the spear for the fentanyl crisis. The border crossings are very real. The combined number of border crossings over the last 3 years on the northern border, just in the last year, were 10 times that of all the previous years added up. So it's not the southern border, but it is growing exponentially. There's a few different pieces that probably didn't get covered. Canada has agreements with certain countries that allowed them to basically fly in visa-free. And those folks would get off the plane in Montreal and Toronto and walk right over the border. That's what Trump is really trying to seal up, the coordination with law enforcement. And it's having an effect.
See, this is effective.
It's effective. Now, it's going to hurt. Right? It's going to hurt certain businesses across the country, especially in New Hampshire. There's no question. But I believe Trump
the tariffs or the security?
The tariffs.
Okay.
You know, the security's great. Yeah. The tariffs are going to be, I think they're doing them fast, hard, and early because they know it's going to be a Band-Aid that has to get ripped off to find that resolution. And if they have to take some pain for a couple months to get to where they want to get long-term, obviously it's smarter to do that earlier than later.
You think about lumber, your home builders, your farmers, what are they telling you?
Softwood. Maple syrup, we have the best maple syrup in the world. I'd just like to brag about that a little bit. Sorry, Vermont, takes second place. But, you know, a lot of the equipment to make our maple syrup, which is a huge industry for us, all comes from Canada, right? So there's a lot of things that cross. There are products that will cross the U.S.-Canadian border 6 times before it actually gets complete to manufacturing. Vehicles, trucks,
So you're
people.
compounding this tariff into triple digits at that point.
It can be a real problem, but I do believe if it gets us to a better sense of border security, a better partnership with our ally, Canada, and ultimately with Mexico, all the better. You have to do it fast and hard. We've had no management of this for 4 years. So he's going fast and hard to kind of make up a little bit for what just hasn't been done.
You go with grade B. Somebody told me recently grade B tastes better than grade A syrup. I grew up in New England and I never heard that before.
It's a little lighter. A grade A maple syrup. I didn't think we were going to get into that.
Well,
but
I didn't
grade
either.
A maple syrup is a little darker. I think it's a little later on in the season, but grade B, I like it lighter. Yeah. It's a 40 to 1. If you tap 40 gallons of sap, you get about 1 gallon of syrup. I'm more of a 20 to 1 guy. I like it a little lighter, but that's a different story.
See, this is the kind of stuff
the things you learn on Bloomberg.
When they're out of office. All right, so just one more for you here. You look south of the border to Boston. Michelle Wu, the
I love
darling.
when we say New Hampshire, when we say south of the border. It could be a whole variety of
things. We're talking border states here.
Yeah.
Michelle Wu, the darling of Massachusetts or Boston liberals. In comes Joshua Kraft, another Democrat, but maybe one Chris Sununu would be more comfortable with running the city of Boston.
So I'm going to be super polite and political and say when it comes to Michelle Wu, I think the term is lunatic.
Okay, so we know where we stand on that.
I think she's the most anti-business, pro-government, big spender, big taxer that you've ever seen, to the point where it has driven out so many businesses out of Boston. New Hampshire's flourishing. They're all coming to the tax-free suburb of Boston, which is called New Hampshire, right? and I want Boston to be strong. I want Boston to be, it's an economic driver for all of New England. And what she, along with Maura Healey, have really done is just a travesty.